Well, gamers, the wipe is confirmed. For those of you that are new to the genre, this means everything that you've worked so hard to get is going to get ripped right out of your hands on Monday. Now, I know you are scared, but hear me out. When making tons of changes at once or in like a short period of time, it's really important for games like this to reset and blank slate the game to receive accurate data that they then use to maintain the balance of the game. You won't always like every change that is made, but in a lot of cases, they're needed to maintain the health of the game. I honestly, for one, love the idea of wipes, and I am a avid Tarkov wipe enjoyer. It's pretty much the only time I play the game these days, because there's nothing like fighting the Giga Chads on even playing terms for a few weeks before they get all kitted up, and then you can't really do anything against them. Now let's get into the patch notes. This patch is focused around reducing the amount of physical damage reduction you can stack with gear. Basically, what was happening is fighters are stacking armor rating as high as possible in an attempt to have the highest physical damage reduction. Some kits were literally reducing incoming physical damage by over 90%. This literally made them the fucking juggernaut. There were also some nerfs to rogues and a few buffs to weapons. I'm gonna read down that list now. And then towards the end of the video, I'm going to give you my thoughts and ideas on where the meta kind of stands. An additional character slot has been added so you can create at least one of every class now. I really wish we had more so that we can kind of test classes, but I guess in the meantime it isn't necessarily needed as we don't have the talent tree yet. The currency used to unlock classes has been returned. That means if you bought the Bard or the Warlock with your blue or red shards, those shards will be returned to you at this time. The game time for the normal Inferno and all high roller maps was increased slightly. They added an additional blue portal, and the Death Swarm closing times have been modified to close slower for the Goblin Cave maps. This is actually huge because the Goblin Caves is not easy to get out of as a new player and allows for a little bit easier ease of entry into the game, in my opinion. The Shrine of Protection's physical damage reduction buff has been reduced from 30% to 15%. I honestly felt like I never really grabbed that buff anyway, and now I'm definitely not going to because that's a huge nerf. The pots and crates give a little bit of XP now, allowing your baby friend to get a little bit of XP as you kind of carry him through the dungeons. Quality of life update. I don't know why they had to make that apparent there, but the silver coins now stack to 30 instead of 25. I don't know why it was ever 25. That just doesn't make sense to me, but I am glad it is 30 now. The armor rating curve has been modified and slightly flattened at the very high range. Now, this is exactly what I was talking about just a minute ago. Basically, what they did is they reduced the effectiveness of having super high armor rating in terms of physical damage reduction. So hopefully, less geared players won't feel as affected by this as higher geared players. Physical damage reduction now has a hard cap of 85%, so nobody getting over that anymore. The Rogue's double jump was modified and now has a speed reduction on landing. They also reduced the height of the double jump. From my buddy that was playing Rogue last night, he says it doesn't feel too different. The Rogue's weak point attack also reduces the target's armor rating by 40% instead of reducing the physical damage reduction. This kind of feels like a buff to me rather than a nerf. And the big one, Rogue can no longer equip the Hand Crossbow. RIP. I really do feel bad for everybody that had a bunch of them sitting in their stash. The fighter's taunt ability's physical damage reduction was reduced from 15% to 10%. Fighter's barricade gives plus 50 armor rating in defensive position instead of plus 15% physical damage reduction. The Ranger's penetrating shot now grants 25% more armor penetration, and they fixed an error in the description text. The Bard's Din of Darkness attribute damage ratio was reduced. Good, because Bards needed that nerf, but Bards are OP. The Explosive Bottle and Oil Lantern now do magical damage over physical damage. I was planning on trying to use these in some bossing attempts to apply a little bit more DPS, but all of the bosses have a flat 30 magic resistance and are weak to physical damage, so that is out of the window. But what it does mean is these are now quite a bit more effective against normal players.
Throw your fucking ball again.
Oh, yes. Wait, let me explosive bottle him. Look at his fucking body. Instruments are now Bard only. so no more drumming people. They significantly reduced the values for physical damage reduction that appear as random attributes on items, meaning you can't roll like 5, 6, 7% physical damage reduction anymore on items. The Falchion's damage has been reduced, and that was a pretty big nerf. The Falchion dropped quite a bit. All of the crossbows now have armor penetration. Windlass is 25, crossbow is 20, and the hand crossbow is 5%. I definitely saw a lot more teams running crossbows last night. The Flanged Mace and Morningstar have 15% armor pen. That's a pretty big buff to the clerics, honestly. The War Maul also now has 30% armor penetration, which I feel like they're trying to make people use the War Maul more because it's, in my opinion, the worst weapon that you can use. The magic staff now has magical damage by default. I feel like that definitely should have already been done, but I'm glad it's in here now. And they reduced the base projectile damage reduction values for plate armors. That's a pretty big buff to the crossbows as well as rangers. The difference gear makes in this game is massive, and fixing any major disruptions to gameplay as intended is needed. There is no reason a person should be able to reduce any damage type by over 90%. That was absolutely game breaking. Although the side effects of this is players who may have better gear but not necessarily going for max physical damage reduction builds are still going to feel like they're getting hit harder. And they absolutely are getting hit harder. We are still going to see the cleric ranger fighter combos, as this is still the best team comp to run in the crypts, but I do think we're going to see more wizard bard combos coming out of the woodworks. This is definitely already being done, but with the nerfs to armor rating making fighter a less viable option than in the past, we could see teams pushing for more DPS oriented team comps. When it comes to rogues, the movement nerfs definitely seemed like a continued balance attempt at their movement. Rogues excel in movement with the highest base agility and double jump perk. Ensuring this is balanced is really important. As far as the rogues go, I think the only major nerf was the loss of the hand crossbow, which kind of allowed rogues to sit in the back and almost be like a quasi ranger. But I was fond of the hand crossbow, so I'm a little bit upset about that. There were no nerfs to rogues damage, so running hide, ambush, and weak point still allows you to burst down most players, and your movement is still very effective in retreating and resetting. I do know rogue mains are going to be mad though. That's kind of on brand. All right, everyone, if you did end up making it this far into the video, I really appreciate you helping me grow. We are getting so close to 1K subs, and that is a major goal for me. Please like the video, but only if you enjoyed the content. Until next time,